Hey guys, Metal Driver here bringing you another AEW Unrivaled review. Today, I'll be looking at Series 5, Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy. So looking at the sides of the box, you see an image of both of the wrestlers. Then on the back, you see images of the wrestlers, their signature, the event and date in which these pictures were taken, and then the rest of the figures that are in this wave. Alright, and now that we have looked at the boxes, let's go ahead and open these figures up and take a closer look at Jurassic Express. Alright, and here we have Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy out of the packaging. But before we take a look at the figures, let's go ahead and look at the accessories that they come with. So both figures come with a pair of interchangeable gripping hands. And the hands on Luchasaurus are very detailed, they look nice. You can see the tattoos on the hands, which look really good. The fingertips are painted green, which looks really nice. I like the detailing on the hands, so these look really good. Taking a look at Jungle Boy first, the head sculpt is sculpted very well. It looks just like Jungle Boy. I think it captures his likeness very well. It's painted pretty good for the most part. The lips, the eyes, and the eyebrows look good. There does seem to be some missing paint on the sideburns here. And a little bit here as well. The hair is nice and long. It's got this nice texture, sculpted really well, and it's not just one solid color. You do see some different shades of brown, so giving it this nice dirty look, some natural highlights, so this looks really nice. I like how this turned out. Then look at the rest of the figure. Now this body is the same body that we have seen with some of the smaller wrestlers in AEW. So this was the same body that was used with Darby Allin and Orange Cassidy. So I think this was a good choice. This does fit Jungle Boy because he's not a real big, beefy guy. He has his tattoo here on the side, which unfortunately looks like mine. There's some missing paint, so it's not done very well. So that is annoying, but hopefully that's not the case with yours if you receive one. The wristbands are painted really well. Some nice good sculpt work here on the laces. Some good paint. And same thing on the other one. So overall looks really good. He's got solid brown trunks. No design, but there is some texturing on the back. So it's not just a smooth bottom. Legs are pretty standard for this body build. Knee pads look pretty good. Some nice texturing here, so that looks really nice. And then he's got his boots. So I like the sculpt work here. It's got these nice fringes. At least I think that's what they're called. Laces are sculpted pretty well. The paint looks good throughout. Doesn't seem to be any mispaint or any sloppiness in the paintwork. Boots look good. So overall, there's not a whole lot of detailing as far as paint goes with Jungle Boy. This figure turned out very well. I think it looks spot on. So this is a really nice Jungle Boy figure. Then taking a look at Luchasaurus. Now this figure has a ton of detail. So taking a look at the head sculpt first, this looks really nice. I love the sculpt work on the mask. Painted very well. I don't see any sloppiness, any mispaint. The tongue looks really good, sculpted really well. I love that expression. I think they nailed the look of the mask. The beard is sculpted really well. There's a little bit of green paint on the beard. The horns look really good. And he's got this green braid here, painted really nicely. The rest of the hair looks really good. Nice good sculpt work. Now this is one solid color for the hair, but that's okay. It does match the strap of the mask, which isn't a big deal, but it would have been nice to have maybe two different colors there. But considering the rest of the figure has a ton of color, that is not a big deal at all. Then here you can see on the back of the figure, there is a ton of paintwork on his tattoos. And it looks really good. I don't really see any major mispaint. Maybe some slight mispaint right here, possibly. But it could just be that's how it's designed. But overall, the back looks really good. Very impressive. Then looking over at the arm. So again, really good solid paintwork. The tattoo looks really spot on. Looks amazing. So kudos to Jazzwares for doing a great job on how this looks. And looking at his front. Here the chest is painted very well with even more tattoos. So really good work. So again, very nice. Very good job on Jazzware for doing such an awesome job on all this paintwork on the tattoos. And I do believe this is a brand new body mold, so I do not recognize this on any of the other AEW figures. So I'm glad we have a brand new body. He's got a nice beefy frame, big huge upper body. The biceps and the triceps look really good. There's a little bit more paint here on the right shoulder, which looks pretty good for the most part. Here the gauntlets look really good, nice paint. The laces are designed really well, good sculpt work there. So nice paint all around, no sloppiness. Same thing on the other gauntlet right here. So really fantastic job. And then the hands look really good. So it's got the same tattoo design as the other hands, as it should. Fingertips have these green paint, which is done really well on both hands. So really solid upper body. Now looking at the belt. So good design here, good sculpt work all around, good paint. I don't see any sloppiness, any major mispaint. Some slight mispaint right here though. Not perfect line work, but that's okay, considering the rest of the figure looks really good. So I'm really pleased with how this belt looks. And the front part here looks really good as well. Some slight mispaint here on the gold, but not a big deal, nothing major. So overall that piece looks really good. Then looking at the lower body, so the tights are painted really well on both sides. So no major mispaint, no real sloppiness, good clean line work all around. So I'm really impressed with how the tights look. Then looking at the knee pads and the boots. So they are solid gold color with the good sculpt work here on these fringes on the back, which looks really nice. Sculpt work looks really good. So I don't know if this is going to hinder any articulation. And yeah, it actually kind of does. So we'll go ahead and check that out later in the articulation side of the video. But the boots and the knee pads have a really cool look, cool design. And then looking at the feet, he's got his toes here, which looks really good. Some nice texturing on the black part of the feet. So overall, really solid. I'm really impressed with how Luchasaurus looks. This is a really fantastic looking figure. Alright, and while I have Luchasaurus here, let's go ahead and look at the articulation on the figure. The head is on a ball joint and a hinge, so he doesn't look that high up at all. So that is due to the back of the hair. He does look slightly down. His head can turn side to side, and it doesn't really tilt all that much. Shoulder has a hinge, which allows it to go that high up. Can rotate all the way around. There is a bicep swivel, double jointed elbows. However, he does not get full range of motion, so it does appear that that is because of the way the bicep is shaped, so that's a little bit disappointing. Wrist has a swivel and hinge. There is a ball joint at the upper diaphragm, which allows him to go not really far forward at all. Can slightly go back, so that's a little bit odd. He can twist side to side very well, and he's got some good pivot here. And then there is another ball joint at the waist, so he does crunch that far forward, and he goes that far back, so not the usual range of motion. With your AEW Unrivaled figures, usually they have a much better range in the torso. His waist can swivel. He has ball joints at the hips, which allows the legs to go that far out, which is really good. It can go that high up. There is a thigh cut, double jointed knees, which are hindered by this knee pad here. So let's see if we slightly move this up, if we get a better range, and not really. So that knee pad does hinder the range of motion in the articulation there. Then the ankle has a hinge, which allows it to go that high up, that far down, and he has excellent ankle pivot. Then checking out the articulation on Jungle Boy. His head does not move at all up, but that is due to this long hair here, so that is to be expected. He can go that far down, so that is actually really good. His head can turn side to side, and it can tilt slightly. Shoulder has a hinge, which allows it to go that high up. It can rotate all the way around. There is a bicep swivel. He has double jointed elbows, a swivel and hinge at the wrist. There's a ball joint at the upper diaphragm, which allows him to crunch that far forward, go that far back. He can turn side to side and pivot. Then there's another ball joint at the waist, which allows him to go even further forward, further back, and that is very good range there. And he can twist slightly. He has ball joints at the hips, which allow the legs to go that far out. He can go that high up. There is a thigh cut, double jointed knees, which are hindered a little bit by this knee pad. He has a cut at the top of the boot. Ankle has a hinge, which allows it to go that high up, that far down, and he does have very good ankle pivot. Alright, and here we have Jurassic Express, next to the Lucha Brothers, next to Santana and Ortiz, and finally next to the Young Bucks. Alright, so what are my final thoughts on Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy? I think both of these figures are excellent. I think Jungle Boy looks pretty spot on. It's a pretty simple figure, but there's really nothing to complain about, and obviously it's going to be a must-have for an AEW Unrivaled collection. And then Luchasaurus just looks fantastic. The detailing on the head sculpt, the excellent paintwork all over the body. In my opinion, it's a definite must-have. So if you're going to pick up one, you're definitely going to want to pick up the other. Now, Luchasaurus isn't perfect. He does have some limited range of motion in the elbows and the knees, And standing him up like this, his legs were a bit weak. They seemed a bit loose, which most of my AEW figures didn't have that issue, so I don't know if it's just the body type on the figure. But with those minor flaws, I don't think that's enough for me to not recommend the figure. Because again, it looks amazing. I think it's honestly one of the best looking figures in the entire line. So I definitely think these are both must-haves. Both of these are great figures, and Series 5 is looking very promising. So if you like this review, go ahead and hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe so you can see more AEW Unrivaled reviews. Follow me on social media and keep up to date with all my wrestling figure photography. And I'll see you next time.